So I kicked off the new year with an event called Vision 2020, which focused specifically on social entrepreneurship. And I had this thought to do this in mind, pretty much because I saw that there was a need to be able to provide foundational information to all business owners. With this particular event, I thought it would be a great idea just to gather a group of individuals who were interested in starting a business, who wanted to learn the fundamentals of what it means to be in a nonprofit, and then also, if you wanted to start a for-profit business, the pros and cons of each one as well. The first thing you have to think about is, going through the phase of concept phase and writing everything down as you want it to appear and you visualize as you want your business to grow. And then on the back end, what we did is we added in a portion specifically for discretionary funding and how you're able to pull that funding in or apply for that funding with the respective politicians that are currently in office. Right now, what I'm really focusing on is anyone who is looking to really try something different in the realm of starting a social entrepreneurship. I wanted to make sure that businesses, especially businesses of color, have that, resource and, foundation so that they could be successful long term. Well, good evening, good people. I am back. I am back. I am back. I hope that you all are doing really well. Thank you for joining me on this platform, The Real Journey of the Entrepreneur. We are in the second season. If you happen to catch us during our piloting stages in November of last year, I started the pilot because we were really trying to figure out, one, how do we survive the pandemic? And two, as small businesses, what that looked like, particularly if you're in this business of providing services. We had 11 episodes and we provided a wide range of topics, including understanding how to get capital, transitioning from the corporate life to working for yourselves. And also we had individuals who actually, sold their businesses and have started a new journey on the road of entrepreneurship. And so the focus of this platform is to let you know that the journey of entrepreneurship is really dope. However, it is met with some real life challenges and experiences that we definitely want to share with you. We want to really unpack what that looks like to be an entrepreneur, particularly if you happen to be a person of color who decided to take this journey of entrepreneurship. For those who do not know me, my name is Anita Pierce, and I am the business owner, principal owner of 11375. I run a business consultancy that was founded in 2017 as a result of really me being downsized, going and transitioning into motherhood, and started a business. We are business consultants that provide foundational education, and we love to close the learning gap. We work with small businesses, nonprofits, government agencies. We work with, pretty much entrepreneurs who are looking to focus in on their next level. One of the things that, if you may be familiar with me, in another space, I am a certified SCORE mentor. So if you are interested in taking advantage of some of my services, and if you cannot afford the fees that we charge, definitely an opportunity to check us out over at SCORE. I'm actually going to put the link up that you can book me. So you can book me through SCORE. It is a free service through SCORE, and there's nothing wrong with getting a dope business coach through SCORE. But then after you finish through SCORE, if you want to continue on working with me, then we can work something out. But thank you for joining us this evening. I am excited to discuss with my business colleague, Mr. Lloyd Cambridge. And we are going to discuss a wonderful topic that I'm sure there are many individuals that are really curious about jumping into entrepreneurship. And so Lloyd and I are going to really unpack, just having a conversation as if we were having a business meeting or in a coffee shop, what that really looks like. And are you really ready to be your own boss? So I want to actually introduce our guests, just by being a little bit formal. Want to be appropriate and actually read the bio. And then we can unpack a little bit more about Mr. Cambridge and his journey. And so Lloyd is the founder and CEO of Progress Playbook, a small business training and economic development consulting company. Lloyd partners with government agencies, nonprofits, and small businesses nationally to design customized learning experiences and inclusive growth strategies that supports entrepreneurs in starting and scaling businesses both locally and beyond. Some of Lloyd's clients have been the New York City Department of Small Business Service, City Harvest, Brooklyn Children's Museum, NYU, and the Actors Fund. So that's just a small bit about who some of his clients are. Lloyd has earned his BS in economics from NYU and is an alum of Choral Leadership Network. So, hey, Lloyd. Hey, Lloyd.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. How you doing?
It's Monday. I'm doing well for a Monday. Thank you for having me on though. How are you?
I'm tired. So those who know me, I see a couple of clients that have joined. Today is Monday and we are entrepreneurs. I just so happen to be somebody's mother and I'm tired today. But happy Monday. Happy Monday to all and thank you all for joining. So, Mr. Cambridge.
Yes.
What is not in your bio that you want to share with the audience?
What is not in my bio? I am from Brownsville. I'm sure we'll get to that later, but from Brownsville, Brooklyn, I don't think that's in my bio. I love to travel. I've been, I think, to every continent except for, pretty much every continent except for one. I flew a plane one time. I have two sisters and 7 brothers. I'm the oldest. So yeah, I can go on and on, but those are some things about me that's not in my bio. Yeah.
Those are some dope fun facts. Okay. All right. So tell us more in depth. So I read like kind of sort of what Progress Playbook, but can you describe to the audience what Progress Playbook is? Like, why did you start? Like, and what was your reason for starting your business?
Yeah. So we started Progress Playbook, or I started Progress Playbook 5, almost 6 years ago. Been running it full time. And we work with organizations, really, government agencies, nonprofits, corporations, to design customized entrepreneurship programs, right, for specific groups. So we have programs for youth. We design programs for like bodega owners across the city. We've designed programs for NYCHA residents across the city. We just believe that, when it comes to entrepreneurship, it should never be cookie cutter because, depending on where you're from, your background, who you are, access to resources, your journey is going to look different than someone else, right? So depending on where you're starting from. So I decided to start Progress Playbook. I mentioned that I was born and raised in Brownsville, Brooklyn. Shout out to Brownsville. Growing up as a young person, I always wanted to start a business. I wanted to be like that fly kid, with the nice Jordans and all the sneakers and things like that. I wanted to give back to my community. I wanted to help my family out. So there were just so many perks in my head at a young age. But I was always afraid. Like I was afraid to step out. I felt like I didn't have the support, the network, the resources So entrepreneurship was just a dream. It just stayed as a dream for such a long period of time. So from like 10 years old through high school, through college, even through my first job working at the bank, I just kept like dreaming about it, but never did anything about it. So one day, two friends of mine, they were like, "I'm tired of hearing you talking about starting a business. Like, you either gonna do it or you're not." Uh, and that was kind of like they put the fire under my butt, and I put my notice into work. This is back in 2016, I guess, 2016, without a real plan. I had an idea what I wanted to do. And here we are 6 years later. But really, I guess my why is I think back to that 10-year-old boy growing up in Brownsville who wanted to start a business, who didn't have access to resources or support or mentorship and guidance. And I wanted to make sure that, when we design programs, I'm designing programs for that 10-year-old boy growing up in Brownsville and places like Brownsville as well. So we do a lot of work in what they call low income neighborhoods, to ensure that they have access to all the things that I wanted to have access to growing up in Brownsville. So that's why we do what we do.
So I'm really curious about. So I want to ask the question again, because why entrepreneurship at such a young age? Now we're both from Brownsville, right? We know of business owners. I can think of, oh God, Mr. and Mr. Lee that used to own a laundromat. They were like the first Black laundromat owners that I've seen. They were on Dumont and Saratoga. They were there for years. And that wasn't a thing for me. Like, I didn't want to go into business at that age.
Yeah.
So what was your like what made it like really like, yo, I want to own my own? Because that's like 10 is like really amazing to be thinking about. I don't want to work for anyone else. I want to have my own business. I just don't know how. So I want
Yeah.
to unpack that, because that's kind of like really, that's like interesting to me.
Yeah, I think like just growing up in a single family household is similar to a lot of stories in Brownsville. Um, you know, I wanted to, just have more money, really, right? At a young age, like being in high school, and couldn't really get a job at that age because I couldn't get my working papers. I was like, well, what's my other option? What can I do? Start a business. So I think that's kind of where it started. I was like, well, and it just kind of, I just kind of, marinated on that idea from that young age, and it just never stopped. I used to watch like CNBC. I used to read business books. I'm like, why am I so young, like watching all of these things and reading these books? So I just knew that it was a passion. It was, something that God put inside of me to kind of give to the world, really. And here we are, years later.
And that's really exciting. And thanks for, being open to answer that question. Because I know that sometimes when we tap back into our childhood, it forces us to think about, things that may be a little tough to talk about. So I appreciate you, sharing that. So let's talk about like, in your year one, what were your startup costs like?
So my business is like a consulting company, or I consult with organizations. So my startup cost was really low. I think it was about like under $300. I didn't cost me anything, right? Like my superpower is my mind. It's my intellectual capital, my relationships, my experience. So I paid for a website on Squarespace, probably like $20. I designed it myself. I started off with the sole proprietorship. I got a business certificate, went down to the county clerk's office, got that. I think it was like $120, and opened up my business bank account. I think I put $100 to start. And I think that was it. And then I was just kind of off, and it started to sell.
So, for the wonderful people who are joining us that can say that they can't start a business and that you have to start out with an LLC, Lloyd and I share that in common. We both started out our businesses as sole proprietors. We wound up eventually changing it, because as we grew, different requirements required us to change our business structure.
Yeah.
But as you heard, Lloyd mentioned it was like probably no more than $400. Now, if you're talking about what 400 can look like, particularly of those who may work, we may spend that on like brunch in a month, right? Or we may spend that on, a pair of shoes, depending on if you, particularly if you buying Jordans. That's not my thing, but I have in my lifetime spent, $400 on a pair of shoes. And so when you're thinking about, can I start a business, what my startup costs, depending on what it is that you are looking to do and sell, you heard my colleague say it was a website. It was going down to the county clerk's office in Brooklyn. It was a very hard and a dream that, he has had since 10 years old, that he was going to start this business. So for those who say they can't start, don't know where to start, think about what your priorities are and start the business. But you do have to have a vision on what it is that you want to accomplish. So thank you for that.
Can I add one thing to that?
Absolutely.
So when I quit my job, I gave my 2-week notice in. My boss at the time, she loved me, so I didn't burn any bridges or anything. So she wanted me to stay on we negotiated for me to stay on for 6 months for me part-time. So I think I quit in like June of 2016. And then I stayed on from June to December part-time to allow me to have income still coming in while I pursued business. So my original idea was to design like these online classes about like how to start different types of businesses. Didn't know anything about tech and, creating content and all this other stuff. But because I had developed like such a robust network and relationships, I used to work at NYC Business Solutions. I was actually the director for the Queen Center and for a period of time, the Bronx Center as well. But anyway, maybe like 3 weeks after I quit my job or gave my notice in, somebody in my network reached out to me and said, "Hey, Lloyd, like the Actors Fund, which is a national nonprofit that supports performing artists, they're looking for a consultant to help them to design an entrepreneurship program. Would you be interested in supporting them?" This is literally like 2 weeks after I quit. I said, yeah, of course. Yes, this is what I do. So that the Actors Fund was my first client. I had several meetings with them while I was still working at the Solution Center at the time. And the reason I'm bringing this back up was because, when I had that meeting, I didn't have my sole proprietorship. I eventually closed the deal and he was like, to move forward, we need to put in place a contract. So I knew I had to have it under my business name. So I said, let me go out. Literally the same day that I closed the deal, I went to the county clerk's office, got it, opened up the business bank account the same day, and was able to. So sometimes you can also sell before you even set up the actual business structure. Some people feel like they have to set the business structure up first and then focus on sales. But that wasn't my experience. My experience was like relationship building, selling, validating the concept somewhat, and then setting up the legal structure.
So essentially they were buying into you as the product and as the brand.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And they're still a client to this day, like almost 6 years later. My first client is, they return every single year. We supported over 500 performing artists and entertainment professionals across the country to help them to start sideline businesses as they're pursuing their art. So like actors and makeup artists and folks on Broadway and things of that nature. So, yeah, I think like there are a couple of lessons in there. One lesson is like, don't burn your bridges, because even if you hate your job, like because you just never know, you can negotiate with your boss too. Like that networking piece is so important and critical, because it's literally only because of my network that I was able to sell and to be able to get deals, strictly because of my network initially.
So yeah, so you're mentioning some really great points about relationship building, about making sure that if you're not fully prepared to make the dip, that you can negotiate, some of the working relations, some with your current situation
Yep.
before you make the full leap. But I also like the fact that you said that, just really going out to sell yourself, because you are the intellectual property, you're the brand. And so before you actually went out and formalized Progress Playbook, you were going out really as Lloyd Cambridge, selling what that you can sell, which I think is pretty amazing. And it's also a testament of courage, because sometimes when you're out there and you are attempting to figure out your way in this space of entrepreneurship, you really have to have like courage and faith, and really just kind of just launch out there sometimes. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's something really interesting. So
Yes, yes. Constant faith, constant courage, constant just jumping out and figuring it out. Like, I'm still figuring it out every single day. Like at each level, there's like just different problems um, that are new, and you don't know. Like, having to hire an employee for the first time, or contractors, or customers pay late, and you're managing your cash flow situation. So at each of these levels, there's just different challenges and problems that require faith, that require courage. And that's so I always say, like, entrepreneurship, if you want to grow as a person, become an entrepreneur, because it forces you to grow. You literally have to boss up every single day if you want to see your company grow. But the only way for your company to grow is if you kind of step up and grow as well.
so I wanted to just have us reflect in 2020, right? Businesses, there was a lot of transition, and still happening now. Um, how did you adjust your business model in 2020?
Yeah, so we teach a lot of classes and programs. We design, facilitate, manage programs and workshops and things of that nature. We pretty much just went virtual like everybody else. So we were doing a lot of this stuff in person, and we now are doing most of our programming online. That was the biggest adjustment. We actually saw an uptick in our business during COVID, and it's still, the opportunities are still happening because there's a great need for the type of work that Progress Playbook does. So it's in high demand, virtual and in person, but the model kind of switched to more in person. I'm sorry, virtual during COVID.
How stressful was it for you when you first made that transition?
It
Or
wasn't.
was it stressful at all?
It wasn't stressful to me. I was excited about it. Like, I was familiar with Zoom, familiar with like all of the tools, right? So if you were already familiar with the tools, um, it wasn't a big learning curve for me and the team. But for other businesses who weren't familiar with like digital tools, required a bigger learning curve. But we were able to save on time, save on traveling. I used to be in 5 boroughs in like a day sometimes. From Manhattan to Brooklyn, Brooklyn to Queens, Queens to the Bronx. Never Staten Island. So really 4 boroughs, but you know, being able to reclaim that time was and expenses as well, because you have to pay for travel. Um, I was excited about it.
And I can tell you, I appreciate being able to teach virtually, because I have a young person, a 6-year-old daughter, and so making sure that I'm able to maximize on the time that behind the computer it's intimidating still, because it's still public speaking. I don't care what anyone says, unless have that knack for it. Public speaking is public speaking, but it just makes it easier, to your point about the reclaiming some of your time. And so I wanted to just ask another question. So what even within the midst of the pandemic, what strategies did you use specifically? Did you promote extra, or did you rely specifically on your relationships to help you to brand build?
Hmm. For me, like everything is relationship driven. Um, everybody has a different strategy. Some people really focus on social media, SEO, just these different things. But for me, in terms of how my business has been growing, and it's been growing kind of steadily over the years, it's been all relationship, right? So just doing a really great job with one client and then turning them into brand advocates, right? So that they can then refer you to other individuals, right? Making time to teach for free sometimes. Like I teach at Pace University at no cost, or I teach at just random workshops, just kind of give things away, and then those you build those relationships, and then they turn into actual money opportunities later. So so for me, it's always relationship building. That was one of the things. I used to work at Chase right out of college, doing asset-based lending for apparel, textile, and jewelry companies. And one of the things that I learned there was, building a relationship plan, right? So at the bank, they wanted to obviously sell more loan products to that industry. So one of the things that we had to do was put together a plan in terms of how we would manage and build relationships. So there's little things, and that was all about touch points. Like how many times can I have a touch point, meaning an interaction with stakeholders, or stakeholders kind of is like folks that either customers, potential customers, or someone that can refer you a customer, like an accountant or an insurance broker or somebody like that. But it was all about how many interactions. So like sending them an email once a month, or let's go out to lunch or for a coffee, and that was really how I got when I first started my business. I gave myself a goal. I said in 6 months, I want 6 clients. I got 6 clients in 6 months, only because I set a strategy. I was like, all right, I'm going to go and do, 3 to 5 lunch, dinners, coffees, whatever, meetups every single day. And I stuck to that strategy for a few months, and it led to 6 deals in 6 months. I was really clear about the goal, had a strategy, and it worked for me. So relationships starting and now has kind of really supported me in being able to grow the brand.
Did you pay for lunch?
I pay for lunch sometimes, I pay for lunch, pay for coffee. You got to, um, definitely, you know.
I'm teasing. I teach some of the young people, like I said if you're doing information interviews, I said send them a virtual Starbucks coffee, like just as a way of thank you, because I was taught as well about the importance of relationship building. I too was in financial services and kind of dipped out, but I also, when I would do the lunches, I was taught to pay that, particularly if you're having someone that you're looking to maintain relationship with, and they always would decline it because they know I was broke and they really had no money, but I
Yeah,
would offer, to pay it as a way of, courtesy. But that's really good points that you're bringing out, the importance of, continually managing and maintaining relationships. But you also hinted on a follow through, right? Because I think that sometimes we miss opportunities because we don't follow up.
yeah,
What are
yeah,
your thoughts about that?
yeah, yeah. So yeah, if you don't follow up, you're not gonna get this sale. Like even today, like I have a colleague. I did a project in 2019 with Chase, my old employer. It's so funny. All of my old employers are now my clients, Chase and the city. Anyway, so somebody that I met in that project, he reached out to me and said, "Hey, like I would love for you to potentially work on another project." And he connected me to his assistant, who was supposed to set up a meeting. She didn't follow up, I gave it a couple of days, and then I wound up following up with her, say, hey, you didn't send out the dates. So now I have a date to meet with her and him so that we can see if this is a opportunity that we can move forward with. But, you gotta have a system, right? Like keep track. So some people use a CRM system, a customer relationship management system. You could use Excel, you could use Trello, like a project management system, but you need something so where you can kind of outline all of your leads, and know where you are in the process with those leads. And then if you need to follow up to kind of get to that next step, you should be able to do that. But sometimes that takes courage as well, right? Like, and persistence. You don't want to annoy people. I'm working on this another project with NYCHA right now, and I'll have to like interview stakeholders, and I've sent out a couple of emails to folks to interview them, and some people won't get back to me, but it's all about the persistence and just still following up and say, hey, I'm just following up on this email. When can you meet? So people will get the idea eventually, but persistence and the follow through are really important pieces in the sales process.
So I'm curious, you mentioned that there's probably a few curious folks. I mean, I understand what you mean by leads. Would you be able to explain what a lead is, particularly if you're just starting in business?
Yeah, so a lead is essentially like your ideal client or your ideal customer who is not a customer just yet, right? You're trying to convert them into becoming a customer. So you may get opportunities. So like when you think about the sales process, one of the first things in the sales process is like brand awareness, right? So you make people, you want to make individuals aware that your brand exists, and you can do that in a number of ways. Social media, relationship building, SEO, there's a million ways, right? Ads. And then, once you kind of go from brand awareness, you want to kind of, you're going to develop some leads. Leads are people that are like potentially interested in your product or your service. And then you have to convert those leads into customers. And it's a whole process to convert them into a client or a customer. So that's what a lead is.
So I appreciate that. I'm always trying to make sure that we are not like talking over anyone. So I appreciate that. So you most recently had to like coach me on to how to hire someone. What was your experience like? Because I know you did it first before I actually had an opportunity to do so.
Yeah, like trying to find the right people to support you is challenging. When I first started, I really leaned on my family and friends. So people that were in my network who I knew who I could rely on, they supported me, some for free, some people I paid, some people worked for free for a little bit, and then I had to pay them later on. But then so you have these various stages in business, right? So when you're first starting out, like, you want to look to see who's already in your network, family, friends, colleagues, whoever can lend a hand to support you in that work. But as you continue to grow, then we kind of move to the next level of like hiring contractors, right? So contractor, they're not an employee, but they support you on various aspects of a project depending on their level of expertise. And that we used to use things like Upwork and Fiverr and hire literally, freelancers from around the world. I had an assistant in Jamaica. I had a researcher in the Ukraine. I had a graphic designer in Turkey, right? So, so you kind of go from like this family and friend piece to like a contractor piece, at least for me, and then eventually moving into the employee piece. We put ads out on Idealist and all of the job boards, start asking around with our friends and other colleagues. We get, the resumes, review them. We go through that whole process, right? But you need to have insurance. It's a lot, right? So we have like workers' comp, we have general liability insurance to ensure that if you're hiring and you're bringing people on board, that if they do something that could jeopardize the business or the client in some way, that you have levels of protection, right? So that's why the insurance piece is important. That's why having like an LLC piece is important. But once you find the right person, you need to have a contract in place, really, right? And we worked with Start Small, Think Big, who's in New York. They're based in New York, but I think they serve clients nationally. But they provide pro bono legal assistance for small businesses, and we work with them to get all of our like independent contractor agreements, partnership agreements, employment contracts together before we actually brought somebody on board. I can go on and on, but that's a piece of the process.
But I want everyone to be clear, because they think that when we start businesses that we're paying for everything when we start up. A lot of it is we're utilizing the free in-kind pro bono services that exist, particularly if you're in New York City and also in New York State. I'm sure that they have the similar programs, but New York City and New York State is super robust in terms of pro bono and free services that are offered to small businesses. And we don't have any problem taking advantage of the services that exist, because not only are they really good services, but it can help you to kind of minimize your costs. If you obviously it's follow through, right? So you have to follow through because the services are made accessible for free. I mentioned this a lot on a number of different episodes that I did, particularly with this program. And folks don't believe me. I'm like, when I first started, my financial situation was a lot different. I got downsized. I was somebody's mother all in the same year. And it became very stressful because I was trying to figure out how to grow a business and didn't have a clue. And a lot of the resources were coming to our communities, and I took advantage of it. That's how I became certified as a minority women business enterprise. That's how I became, certified most recently as a SCORE mentor. But the goal is to really take advantage of those free and pro bono services. So you didn't just hear from me. You heard it from another successful business owner, and don't say we didn't tell you so.
Right. Yeah. And there's so many resources. Like the ecosystem in New York City is so robust. There's so many. I think the challenge is that, there isn't like one central place to kind of find out about everything. So you have to do your research, really, right, to kind of identify what some of those resources are that can support you. But there's a lot of no cost / free resources out there that can support you. Yeah.
So if you don't like the word free, because I know sometimes we get a little offended by that. If you don't like free, pro bono,
no cost.
No cost. Start using that language.
To you, no cost to you, but somebody's paying for it.
Right. That's the key. That's the key that we have to learn. And so now that you have Lloyd's, someone working, that's like your direct report, right? Mm-hmm. So there lies come another different challenge. Not really a terrible challenge, but you now have to train. Right. You now have to, get to know this person. Right now we're in a virtual space, so sometimes that could be a little bit challenging. Would you be able to share just a peek as to what that transition has been like for you? Because now not only are you managing clients, but you're now dealing with, team members to help you to grow and scale your business on certain projects.
Yeah. So we have like a project manager. We have an admin, we have curriculum designers now to kind of support us. We have facilitators that facilitate some of the programs. So we have interns supporting us with other kind of content areas. So I do like a weekly report, just kind of, here's everything you need to know about Progress Playbook, what we're doing every single week, to kind of give people an update so we can all be on the same page. We have like a weekly meeting, a weekly team meeting, so that, again, we can answer questions. So first they read that document, and then we can answer questions as it pertains to that document. We also utilize like a project management software. I've been using Trello. I've kind of messed around with so many different project management softwares, from Asana to ClickUp, but we kind of landed on Trello, where we can break down projects, like who's doing what. So it's a lot of work to manage a team of people, having various weekly meetings with different team members. Um, but it's fun, and it takes the burden off. I think what I wish I would have focused on when I first started was more about like capacity building. When you first start, is like, I'm just trying to sell. I just want to get that check, or get money to, have cash flow coming in, right? But as you focus in on your sales, you have to focus in on capacity. You can't grow beyond your capacity to handle the work, right? So capacity building is bringing on the right team members. It's making sure you have processes and a system in terms of how you do various parts of your business. So for me, it's like curriculum development. Like, what's our process for designing curriculum? What's our process for designing a program? What's our process for onboarding a client? And this takes time. Like, it's not easy to like develop systems for your business all at once, right? But I just wish I would have started that a little bit earlier, because like process will determine how high you can go, essentially, right? So process, people, and then having the resources as well, obviously, because you got to be able to pay people, right? So this is where pricing comes in to play. When I first started, my prices were fairly low. And I was like, wait a minute, if I want to hire people and I want to like grow and expand, I need to like raise my prices so that I can begin to bring people on board, or maybe go after the right types of projects versus focusing in on small projects. So just a lot of learning along the way around pricing, around building teams, around, yeah, all that.
The only thing I want to add is I echo all of that, but what me learning is about trusting that your team will get it done. Because oftentimes particularly if you've been in a space where you have been the only person and you have a system, and your days may be long, and now you have to really, let go of the things that someone else can appropriately manage for you. That's
Yeah.
trusting. That's not. And sometimes I remember when I first, because I'm just new to having, 2 members to my team. And I have to tell you, it's not because I don't think that they're great or they have the ability. It's just a process. Like, I know that I have a specific schedule. Things need to be done at a specific time. And so it's a matter of like, literally, okay, do this and go. Like, do this and go. And then like really letting it go and not being afraid of, some of the challenges that may come up, because it's probably not done the way you imagine it in your mind. So I've learned to let it go, because it doesn't make sense to have people a part of your team that you're paying and you're still doing the same work.
Still doing the work. Yeah.
That don't
Yeah.
make sense.
Yeah. Sometimes it's good to like just have like a model. It's like, hey, like, this is what I want it to look like. If you've already done it before, and then you can just show them what that is, and they can either improve the system in some way, but at least they have an example of what it should look like. But sometimes you don't have that luxury of saying this is what it should look like, because it might be a new project, a new thing, a new program, a product, or whatever it is. So trust is definitely a part of it. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, is that if you want to grow as a person and become an entrepreneur, because it's all about like those soft skills of like trust and courage and perseverance. And it sounds cliche, but trust me, like those core elements, you have to practice those things and grow in them. And it's a daily practice to be courageous, to get rid of that voice that's saying, oh, like, I'm not enough, or like that imposter syndrome, or it's a daily practice to discipline yourself and to be consistent. And I can go on, but those soft skills, or those ways of being, are like super important to the success and life of your business.
So I'm gonna ask you question.
Hmm.
What does your days look like?
Crazy, crazy. No, um, it rained. I mean, I might start the day off with like responding and kind of answering emails. I might move on. I have a lot of meetings. My days, the last couple of all this year has been filled with meetings. I feel like so I'm in probably like 4 or 5 meetings a day, talking about doing the work or talking or reviewing the work, and then in between that, I'm meeting with team members. I am um, doing my part of the job that I need to do to kind of move projects along. I'm creating proposals or trying to sell more products and services to clients. So yeah, I just wear so many hats. On Fridays is kind of like my admin day where I just do like where I meet with my bookkeeper once a week to kind of go over all of our transactions, um, you know, scheduling and planning and kind of all of that stuff happens on Friday, but Monday through Thursday is really, um, yeah, selling, developing the product, and servicing the client.
Yeah, so
Wow.
it's yeah, so y'all thought this was a joke. Some days we have to be the CEO, some days we have to be the CFO where we are going after clients for payment. You have to be um you have to be very clear about, you know, what you're going to be working on. So what else do you do? Are you exercising in the morning? Do you
Oh,
meditate? Do
okay,
you
got
pray?
it.
Like all of that's included in the day.
Got it. Yeah. So I start my day. I get up between like 4 and 5 in the morning, which is really early, I know, but
I do it
I
now.
start my day definitely with meditation and prayer. I try to spend an hour meditation, prayer, journaling, um, and just like reflecting is like that first hour of my day. Um, I actually picked the meditation thing up during COVID, and it was like one of the things that kind of changed my life in many ways. Um, is just getting still and being present. I spent a lot of time either in the future worrying about it or thinking about the past and all the mistakes and all the things that I made. But you know, something about centering myself has been really transformative. um, so that's the first hour. I try to go to the gym. Sometimes it works, sometimes it don't. After that, and then I come home after the gym and kind of get to work. I probably start my work day like around 7:30, 8 o'clock. And some days I go through 7 to 7:30, like 12-hour, 10, 12-hour days, a ton of sacrifices with family and friends to do this work, but I love it. I was a passion of mine. Like it's figuring it out as you go along. Um, so yeah, those are what my days look like right now. But I try to end the day no later than 7:30.
So I got a question. Yvonne. Hey Yvonne. Yvonne says, do he have to work on Saturday? Like
Yeah. So this is the beauty. Like this is the beauty of entrepreneurship, right? Like everybody's journey looks different, right? So me, like I work on the weekends too. Like I'm like my goal for 2022 is to reclaim my nights and weekends, right? But again, you have to set up the systems to be able to do that. At least for the type of business that I'm in. But yeah, I work. But I have a lot of flexibility, right? So some days I take a nap at 1 o'clock for like 10 minutes or 20 minutes. Some days I'm traveling. I'm gonna take the day off and travel. So I enjoy that flexibility, but I definitely work on the weekends as well. And it's just a part of right now is a part of the sacrifice to kind of get to where I want to go.
so yeah, like I definitely echo that, Lloyd. There are days like today is going to be a really, really long day today because as most of you are familiar with, I have a little 6-year-old, and that balance of being a now growing business and also being a parent is a whole nother beast. And then, for when she is asleep, that's when I can really knock out like the real like focus work, because I've learned to really understand myself that I need like complete quiet. Like if I really need to focus on something to really make it like it pop, I need quiet. And
Yeah.
so the early mornings, I just recently started the 4 o'clocks, the
Mhm.
5 o'clock, like really getting up and doing that work time. And so that I can knock some of it out. And like Lloyd and I was talking before we got on, like it's gonna be a really long day for me. But I know that at the end of the week, I don't have too much to do or too many things scheduled. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't have things to do. It's just that I can schedule accordingly. And so sometimes, it can be really long. And then other days it's like short. And when I have those short days, I don't tell anyone that I don't have anything on my calendar. So, you know, thank you for not booking me on those days. Anyway.
The time blocking thing actually really worked. I had tested that out. I don't know if you tested that out, but like time blocking, that was also transformative too. Like just blocking off time to do the work, to meet. Like you block your whole calendar off like a week in advance with personal stuff and professional stuff. Like, yeah, there's so many tips and tricks, like using a timer to time yourself so you can know how long it actually takes to do things, especially
Mhm.
like when you are bidding on projects. So I use this app called Toggle where I begin to like time myself when I'm doing certain projects and also the team. So you can just get smarter at doing all of this work.
Yeah, so that leads me into, the next question, right? About, what are some realistic tips that, I mean, because you dropped a lot of jewels here today. And I hope you all who are watching live were taking notes. That being a business consultant, being a person who wants to have a balanced life, whatever that may mean for you, right?
Yeah.
And what tips can you offer for one who may want to follow in your path and doing like similar work that you can do? And before you answer that, I want to also say this, right? That it's important to tap in on reliable business colleagues that you can ask questions and not be afraid, because the reality is Lloyd and I do similar work, but it's not like we're in competition. He has his special sauce and I have my special sauce, and so that both makes us individuals. Like in my head, I'm like, when time comes, Lloyd is going to be on this project with me. Or when Lloyd has a project, he may say, you know what, I know someone who can help me with this piece of the project that I may not have the capacity for it, but it's definitely something that we can share. So I want to put that out there as well, because oftentimes when we think of, oh, they're doing it too, you ain't doing it like Lloyd and you ain't doing it like Anita. So get it correct. We can both be in business and we all can win. So I wanted to throw that out there, Lloyd, really quickly.
Yeah, you're right. Like there's a lot of people doing what we're doing, but there's enough, to go around, and we don't have the capacity to do everything. And the collaboration is important. Like that's a big reason why I've been able to kind of scale and grow as well, is because just through partnerships. We go on projects together, we bid on projects together, we divide the work. Um, but we all do similar things. So yeah, like one of the ways that you can grow your business is through joint ventures, is through partnerships. That's one strategy. So trying to be the lone ranger is going to take you a lot longer to get to the goal or the vision, versus if you partner and collaborate with others. So
And what are the tips that you can offer if someone wanted to start and be like, Mr. Chambers, what would I need to do to start to follow through in your path on your journey?
with starting a consulting business with organizations, some tips, I think one big thing is like the pricing piece. Like you really have to figure out if you're a consultant, you have to learn how to price yourself correctly. Um, one, kind of seeing like what the industry standard is, and two, understanding like your unique value proposition or your expertise or your special sauce, whatever you want to call it. And understand like you got to pay yourself, you got to pay for the business expenses, you got to pay taxes, and you want to have a profit, right? So you got to make sure that you have what we call like a healthy margin, right? So your margin is like your price, right, minus your cost to do the work, right? And then like what's left over after that? Because with that, you got to pay for a whole bunch of other things and have a profit. So you really want to figure out that pricing piece. Then the relationship piece, like I said earlier, I wouldn't be where I am right now. And I've gotten from level to level in this business because of my relationships. So you really want to be likable, follow through. I reach out to clients who haven't purchased from me in a while. I'll just say, hey, here's an article. I'm not asking for anything sometimes. In most cases, I'm just trying to add value to them so that they won't forget about me, right? So what you want to do is you don't want people to forget about you. And the only way for you to do that is for you to reach out and have a touch point. And it's not always like a blast email to your entire list. Sometimes it's like an individual email. Say, hey, what's going on? Like, what's new? Or here's an article. Or here's an opportunity that I think might benefit you. So, like, staying on top of mind, making sure you have pricing, really identifying and knowing like what your strength and your special sauce is, like your expertise. So although I have a program and curriculum design business, sometimes like I don't always enjoy doing curriculum. So that's why I had to hire curriculum designers. I'm better at like sales and innovation, and I have like a special sauce, right? For me personally. So understanding like what your strengths are and then delegating, the things that you either don't enjoy or that you're just not great at. What else? I can go on. You want me to continue?
Give some more tips. We got like few more minutes, and then we're gonna wrap up until our rapid fire questions. But I'm typing in the chat. Some of your tips: stay on top of mind, understand your pricing, knowing your skills and strength, and know what you are really, really good at, and give away the things that you are not.
No, you're not good at. Yeah. You have to maintain like the cash flow piece. So you always like really have to be selling, and that's where the relationship piece comes in at for this type of business, right? So understanding your cash flow is super important. I spoke earlier about like the whole capacity thing. So having like the systems in place. So like, again, like as you're growing, as you're doing business development, meaning that you're going out there and trying to secure deals, like you need to be working on the back end of your business to be able to support that, whatever that looks like, right? So I would just maybe focus in on one system for your business every single week. A lot of us just pay attention to sales, but sales without the back end is going to be detrimental to your success. So as you're doing sales or business development, you want to focus in on your process in terms of how you do various things in your business. What else?
What else? If they want more, they're going to have to hire you.
This part, the mindset, is the most important part. It sounds cliche, and I hate saying it, but I love saying it too, because it literally is. You need a plan to manage yourself, to manage your emotions, and to manage your mind. I say all entrepreneurs need a therapist. They need a coach. When I first started, I didn't have many advisors. I have 4 advisors now that I meet with either weekly or monthly or quarterly. But like we have so many blind spots, you need to have perspective. There's a proverb that says, with many advisors, your plans will succeed, right? So I need to have other people, right? Serena Williams has a coach. All of the top athletes have a coach. So as a business owner, you need that too. So that's also something that I started to implement into my business about a year some change ago. Yeah.
So again, if y'all want more, you're gonna have to hire Mr. Cambridge for his services. But I'm actually gonna drop your website on. Where else can they find you on social media?
ProgressPlaybook.com. We have our Progress Playbook Instagram and Facebook. We have Lloyd Cambridge. You can find me on all the platforms as well. But following Progress Playbook is like where we're going to be dropping more content in terms of the work that we're doing. So, yeah.
All right, Mr. Cambridge. All right, so now we come towards the end of our episode. I hate to let you go, but before I let you go, we're going to ask you some rapid fire questions. They are one word answers.
Just one word.
Two. Maybe two.
Okay.
So I'll start with, what's your favorite borough?
Brooklyn.
Of course, right? That's a of course, right?
Yeah, it's a no-brainer. Yeah.
So what do you do in your downtime?
Sleep.
Pizza or burgers?
Burgers.
Smoothies or ice cream?
Smoothies.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee all day.
In 3 years, what would you like to see change either within your current community or where you grew up?
A lot of things. I live in Crown Heights right now, born and raised in Brownsville, like I said. One thing that's kind of getting on my nerves in Crown Heights and all over New York City is just aesthetically, like garbage and all those types of things. It just, like, that also has an impact on your mindset and your emotions and things. So I just want to see New York City get cleaned up some, amongst so many other things. But that was the first thing that popped in my head.
Is cleanliness.
Yeah.
That's another topic that I hope you'll come back to discuss about, making sure your mind is organized, but you got to have a clear space around you to be able to work. So don't answer it because you're going to come back. The legacy that you would like to leave your family.
So, yeah. So yeah, like I said, like there's been so many sacrifices with doing this work, even with my family and friends. So I just want for all of this to be worth it, and it will be. But when I say worth it, I mean that we're passing down not only like wealth, but like the knowledge to be able to sustain that, right? And knowing that, that whatever your dream is, that you can really do it. Yeah, we're doing. Yeah, I can talk more about that, but I'm gonna leave it right there.
And that's why you have to come back.
Yeah.
Mr. Cambridge, do not be a stranger to this show. We love the advice that you was given to us, the audience. But before you head out, I actually wanted to share a video that was done by you and your team. I'm just going to share a little bit about what the work that you do in video format. So for those who are still tuning in, we're going to share it and stay tuned for more that Mr. Cambridge has to offer.
To help young people in Crown Heights and throughout Brooklyn to be able to start businesses.
We decided to open our bar in Crown Heights because we felt like we were enticed just by the direction Crown Heights was going in. It's, as everyone knows, very gentrified, and we really wanted to open a business that was in a location that was growing, and that was very diverse. We liked the mixture of old Brooklyn and new Brooklyn, and we felt like this would be the perfect opportunity to open in a neighborhood that gave us that. My advice would be take advantage of the changes and not be afraid of differences or people that don't look like you or people that aren't from the same background as you. There were cheeky bullet holes kept in for decoration that they were serving 40 ounces of rosé. The owner of Summer House, she wanted to serve them in paper bags. She said, why don't I get some paper bags for these? All of which went into this article. Both Gothamist and Anita reported on them the same day. It kind of went viral from there because it was so off-color, disrespectful, offensive. It was a platform for those who, truly felt wronged by this bar, or if Summerhill wanted to stand up for themselves, to speak on it. We had a great turnout of people who've been here for years and spoke on not only their experiences personally with gun violence. I was shaken up. They named friends, children, other family members that had died from gun violence.
If there's a new business that's going to be opening up, just do your best to have some community outreach, try and bring everyone together, and just integrate yourself into the community calmly.
So while that was some of the work that Lloyd did, and it's still working on with some of the clients, but just wanted to, share as some of the diversity that happens when you are a business consultant and what that looks like, around the spectrum, being spotlighted and highlighted and featured in a number of different areas. So this particular episode was specifically about, what gentrification looks like. But as you saw, we had a feature of Mr. Cambridge in there and some of the work that he's doing specifically with young people. So I want to thank you for taking time out of your very busy schedule to come and talk to this audience. We are super excited and also very proud of the work that you're doing, knowing that you are from, Brownsville, and knowing that, we're kids from Brownsville that who have made it, differently. Right. It doesn't have to look like the norm, what is often, pushed out within media, that there are very successful business owners that come from our hood. So I look forward to seeing you again back on the show. Maybe we can really unpack what that, looks like about, wellness, for the entrepreneur. And again, look forward to supporting you any way that we can. And you're always welcome here in this space. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Anita and team. I appreciate it. I had a great time. Thank you.
And so if you are looking to reach out for services for Lloyd and his team, you can reach him at progressplaybook.com. Thank you so much, Lloyd.
Thank you. Take care.
So before we actually wrap up, I actually wanted to share that there are a number of resources that are out there that you can definitely take advantage of. This is definitely a show where we are looking to provide, information to share with entrepreneurs. So right now there is a grant between $5,000 and $25,000 that is now available through the New York State Empire State Development COVID-19 Pandemic Small Business Recovery. The website is there, nyssmallbusinessrecovery.com. There are requirements in order for you to take advantage of, these specific grants, just like the PPP loan, just like the EDIL loan. There are specific requirements that are necessary, but they are available, and there are individuals that can help you to get ready for it. One of the resources that can help you, we had Deshaun Mars on the Brownsville Minute, but definitely connected to this particular resource. The NYC Small Business Resource Network is for small businesses. Again, all of the free services that we talk about that were featured are available. And if you're looking for help with this specific grant, you can definitely check out the NYC Small Business Resource Network. And also, if you are in Brooklyn, please check out, there are a number of Chamber of Commerce. I just happen to be, associated with the one in Brooklyn, but there are a number of Chamber of Commerces that can help you to gain access to resources. They are member-based, but definitely there are services in which they offer that if you are a budding and starting small business, you can take advantage of them as well. So on that note, I want to thank you all for, taking time out of your schedule to join us this evening. Please stay tuned as we bring on more entrepreneurs who are willing to share, their experience and talk about what it's really like on the journey of an entrepreneur. Stay tuned and look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you for tuning in. Good night.